Hello everyone, dear viewers and subscribers of my channel. In today's video, I will show you my favorite and my most passable strategy. I think many of you have already guessed which strategy will be discussed, but today we're upgrading it a little bit, just a little bit. Today we will make the expiration time lower than usual. That is, accordingly, we used to trade this strategy for 1.5 minutes. Now we will trade it 3 times faster, or to be more precise, for 30 seconds. Let me briefly explain everything to you now. So first of all, let's add 2 indicators that we will work with. So we click on the 3 dots. By the way, initially you will need to set up a schedule. You will usually have a 1-minute time frame. We will need to set the time frame for 30 seconds, since our strategy is fast, therefore 30 seconds. Here. And of course, we will trade. We put Japanese candlesticks on the chart. Next, click on the 3 dots, go into the settings and add 2 indicators here. The first indicator is the RSI, and the second indicator is called the trend cycle. Now we will start setting them up. Click on the pencil, and here we will need to adjust them correctly. We leave the period as it should be. And we go in here and remove the middle line. We just don't need it. And we can put 2 pixels on the green line. Again, you can put absolutely any colors you want, as long as it is convenient for you. And we put this curved line by 2 pixels so that it is simply better visible. And now let's start setting up the indicator, which is called the trend cycle. Here we put 2, here we put 35, here we put 10, here we leave 1. Let's leave just such a setup. Next, we go into the style. Here we put 65, and here we put 35. Well, we can also put 2 pixels each here so that all our lines are wider. So, let's get started. Now, I will find the right situation, I will immediately enter into the transaction, and I will explain it to you correctly. So, I found the situation we needed. I find a deal for 10% of my bank, respectively, $10. And let's pay attention to the RSI indicator now. The RSI indicator, or rather this curved line, is now at the very bottom. It is located around the 30th line. This means that we are currently very strongly oversold, and the asset can only grow in principal. If we look at the indicator, which is called the trend cycle, then now we actually have 3 directions of movement. This is an upper ascending, meaning sideways and descending. The upward movement is always the same, and the sideways movement is from above and below. The downward movement is also always the same. Accordingly, it is interesting for us to enter into transactions precisely when the RSI is at the very bottom, and the trend cycle, it is this sideways movement that will also go on for a very long time. Accordingly, then we simply have no options other than how to grow. Therefore, we enter into a deal for a raise. If the situation is in the opposite direction, the RSI is near the 70th line, and the trend cycle is sideways only from above, then we can only fall. But we will use an overlap system. For those who don't know, I return the balance for losing trades to my subscribers. Yes, you heard right. But now listen carefully. If you are my partner at the broker, and for some reason you are draining the balance, you can always write to me in private messages and request compensation up to 100%. You can find out what the compensation fund is now in my cart in the profile header. The current amount of the compensation fund is always written there. You can also participate in our evening trading sessions, which are completely free of charge, and I personally give the signals myself. Well, and the rest of the buns that you can fuck in partnership with me, you can read in the Telegram in the profile header. The link will be in the description, so go ahead and check it out. So now I'm going to show you how we're going to work with the ceiling system. I found an entry point. I go in for a $10 raise. Why? Again, we have a long sideways trend cycle from the bottom, and according to the RSI, everything is at the very bottom. This means that we will have a first overlap of $15. The second transaction, the first overlap. $15 means that we have added plus 50% to our first transactions. So, accordingly, if the first transaction closes at a minus, but the second transaction closes at a plus, then we beat off the first transaction and also earn from above. That is, the system is such a win. We enter into a deal for $15, and now if the second deal closes in the red, what do? We add up the first 2 trades, that is, $10 plus $15 and plus 50%, respectively, and we get a total of $37.5, which will be the final last trade and the last overlap. If the third transaction closes in the negative, then we simply return with $10, so we will not merge the balance. We are entering into a deal at $37.5. This is our last overlap, and let's see how our chart will close now. Again, let me remind you that we used to trade for 1.5 minutes, but now I decided to experiment and speed up this strategy, so to speak, so as not to wait a lot of time and see how this strategy behaves exactly at the 30-second expiration time. So 2, 1, that's it. The deal closes in a plus, and now you see $118 on the balance sheet. So, another interesting situation. I go in for $10.30. We enter into a deal for a raise. As a rule, the second or third trade is almost guaranteed to close in a plus. But, again, if we combine them with our indicators, if, again, we have a situation like this, for example, everything is at the bottom, and we open a deal to increase, the first one may close at a minus, the second one may close at a plus. If the second one closes at a minus, then the third one will most likely close at a plus. Well, it very rarely happens when the third transaction closes in negative territory. This is of course a shame. We are currently incurring quite large losses, but still this happens quite rarely. Well, in the future, of course, it all fights back. We enter into another transaction. This means that so far we have no upward movement in the trend cycle here. Well, now what happened is an unpredictable story, and here, most likely, we will need to change the schedule. But I think this is the last deal we have for today. Therefore, when there is a breakdown of two lines as now, then, in principle, we end there. Well, I think we'll see how this deal closes. If it closes in the negative, then I will open another deal for $15, but most likely it will close in the positive. So basically, I think I've explained how this strategy works. You have just seen the result. There are $137 on the balance. That is, in just 8 minutes, we added 37% to the balance. Of course, it's not quite right to enter into one transaction for 10%. If, again, you start from risk management, as a rule, it is better to enter 1%. That is, 1% of your bank. But still, if you go to 1%, then, for example, the profit from the balance of $100 is not particularly noticeable. That is, you enter 1%, $1 plus 92%, and you earn only 90 cents per trade, and that's not enough. Still, you won't get such results if you go to 1%, but from the point of view of risk management, this is the right thing to do. It's better to make a bigger deposit and already trade, so to speak, more correctly than to trade for 10%, because trading for 10% of your bank is still a bit risky. Okay, friends, I've been talking a bit. That's all for today. I hope you liked this video. Liked how I, so to speak, redid this strategy a little bit, precisely because I changed the expiration time and the strategy became faster. Write your comments and naturally go to the cart. There are a lot of interesting things. See you later.